Hey, Carl.
Hey, Awesome. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
All right.
So today we're going to talk about Jupyter Notebooks.
Could you tell me what makes Jupyter Notebooks so useful?
The main reason Jupyter Notebooks are useful for us is because they are the primary interface that SageMaker provides for building machine learning models. Jupyter Notebooks are also popular in the data science and machine learning communities.
Okay, well, why are the Jupyter Notebooks so popular?
Jupyter Notebooks are popular because they let you mix text with code. They let you write technical papers that can be executed. They let you share your ideas and code with other people. This way, people who are reading your paper can also run it and reproduce your results.
Okay, so what's with the spelling of the name?
The name Jupyter is actually a combination of the first three languages that it supported: Julia, Python, and R. Three languages that were used extensively in scientific research. And even though other languages are supported, the name stuck.
So how do I connect the Jupyter Notebooks on SageMaker?
Let me show you that. So the first thing you do is you get on the AWS Management Console and you look for SageMaker. And then you click on SageMaker. You want to click on Notebook Instances and create a notebook instance if you do not already have one. So I already have a notebook instance here. I'm going to click on Open. So this is going to open up the home page of Jupyter from which I can launch new Jupyter Notebooks. I can either upload an existing Jupyter Notebook from my laptop, or I can create new Jupyter Notebooks. So let me go ahead and create a new Jupyter Notebook. The first thing I have to do is choose the kernel for that notebook. So we're going to go with Conda Python 3, and this will create a notebook. I can also change the title by double clicking on it, and let's call this Jupyter Demo. After this, I can start typing Python code. So for example, I can say print hello world, and then if I click on run, that's going to execute this Python code and then produce the output hello world.
So do I need SageMaker to run these notebooks?
You can run many of these notebooks locally on your laptop as well. As long as you have the prerequisite libraries installed on your machine, you should be able to run these locally. We will run these notebooks in SageMaker because then we don't have to worry about the prerequisite libraries. They're always there.
So I'm a coder. What features do notebooks have that will help me write good code?
Let me show you some of these features. So one of the features that notebooks have is autocomplete. For example, if I just type PRI and I hit tab, it's going to complete that to print. And I can type out hi, and then I can run this. The notebook is made up of cells. So each time I type out some Python and then I run it, it creates another cell for me. These cells are intended for Python code, so the type of the cell is code, but I can change this to Markdown if I want. And I can start entering Markdown into the cell. So for example, if I put a header here in Markdown that says technical report, and then write some text. And then when I run this Markdown cell, it turns into beautifully rendered Markdown. So this way, we can go back and forth between code and text and create documents which include Python code that's executable, as well as text that explains what the code is doing.
So how do I create and edit a notebook?
So the first thing you do to create a notebook is on the home page, you want to click on New and then select the kernel like we did before, and then you create the notebook. You can go into an existing notebook by opening it. You can type on any of these cells and add more code here, and then execute again by clicking on Run. You can also insert new cells. So at the bottom, I can click on Insert, and I can say Insert cell below. And I can write some more Python code. And I can click on Run. Let me show you something else. You can also run commands that take some time to complete. So suppose I sleep for 10 seconds. This is going to put a little star here instead of and output. So this command is executing, and you can hover on this little gray circle here next to the name of the kernel, which says the kernel is busy. After 10 seconds pass, this command completes and you get a number next to it. You can also run shell commands. So for example, if I want to run the Unix ls command, I can type ls -l. As long as I have an exclamation mark in front of it, then this is going to run in a separate shell. So if I run this command, it's going to give me the contents of the folder that this notebook is in. I can also type commands that have multiple lines, and I can do that with %bash. So in this cell, this is called a magic cell, I can type multiple bash commands. For example, I can type ls -l, I can also type date, maybe type date twice, and then when I execute this cell, this is going to run all of those commands. So sometimes you have a snippet of bash code that you have to execute. Instead of using exclamations on each line, you can just use %bash to execute a sequence of bash commands together.
That's pretty powerful. Is there somewhere I can go to get a list of the commands?
Yes, so you can see the commands through the menu. A lot of these commands for the Jupyter notebooks are under these different menu items. So if you click on this little keyboard icon, this opens up the keyboard palette. You can just type the name of a command here, and it will show you exactly what the command is called, and will also show you the keyboard shortcut for executing it. So for example, if I search for insert cell above, I can see that I can insert cell above by just typing A or by selecting this command. So if I select this command, it's going to insert a new cell above my previous one.
Okay, so how do I export my notebook from SageMaker to my local machine?
Let me show you how to do that. So you want to go into File. Once you're happy with the notebook that you've created and you've tested out all the code, you can go into File and then download as notebook. Will pull down the file as a Jupyter notebook. You can also download it as a Python file, and then it'll be a
So I can
single
keep all of those
application.
great commands I've entered in a
Yeah, and you could just run it as a Python script.
Nice.
So if I select this, it's going to just download the entire Jupyter notebook as an IPYNB file, and you can then use that to run your application again.
Okay, so what are these numbers next to the output here?
So when you're running a Jupyter notebook, there is a Python application that's running in the background, and these numbers indicate the sequence of the cells that were executed. So if I run the same cell multiple times, you will see that the number will increment. So right now it's 8, and then it turns into 9, and if I run this again, it turns into 10.
Okay, well, can I reset the state and restart the kernel?
Yeah, so sometimes what I've noticed is when I'm working on a notebook, things get messed up after a while. I forget exactly what order I ran the commands in, and it's nice to be able to reset. So you can do that by selecting kernel, and then you can say restart and clear output, or restart and run all. So if I say restart and run all, that's going to clear out the outputs for all of the cells, and then it's just going to go sequentially through all the cells and execute them again.
Let's say I'm giving a presentation and I want to hide all of the browser border stuff. Is there something I can do with that?
Yes. So once you are comfortable with the keyboard shortcuts, you can hide some of the toolbars that appear on top of this browser by going into View. So if you go into View, you can toggle the header, hide the header, and then you can go into View and also toggle the toolbar, and this will make the toolbar go away. So this gives you more real estate for your text and for your code, making it easier to do presentations.
Well, getting back to the notebook, what are some other useful libraries that are available?
There are several libraries that make notebooks very effective for doing machine learning. Pandas is a Python library for data analysis. NumPy is a library for linear algebra on n-dimensional arrays. And matplotlib is a library for visualizing.
Okay, so what is Pandas?
Pandas is a Python library for data analysis. It is useful for cleaning and preparing data for machine learning.
Okay, then what is NumPy?
NumPy is a library for processing n-dimensional arrays. It lets you do linear algebra at native speeds, and Pandas uses NumPy under the hood.
Okay, and lastly, what is matplotlib?
Pandas uses matplotlib for visualization. You can use it to draw graphs, to draw histograms, to draw scatter plots. We're going to look at these libraries in upcoming modules.
All right, well, I think that's clear. Thank you, Asim, for going over this.
Thanks, Carl. Those were great questions.